This is Charles Jordan. For nearly 45 years now, an American tradition has been the nightly Lowell Thomas newscast. Beginning in 1930, Lowell Thomas has covered every single major event of historic proportions, now spanning back 4 decades. And now, beginning on this October 8, 1974, stand by for Lowell Thomas in the News.
Time to WCBS. 4 tones will follow. The final loudest one marks the exact time.
It's 7 o'clock. From Capitol Hill, from Oslo, Norway, from Cairo, comes today's news. Good evening, everybody. This is Lowell Thomas for CBS News. Whip inflation now. Win for short. That battle cry was sounded today by President Ford. No doubt you heard it. This in his special address to that joint session of Congress. The President's long-awaited anti-inflation program based on some 30 specific proposals, including a drastic cut in federal spending, along with a 5% tax surcharge for middle and upper income brackets, a new energy conservation program, and a return to all-out food production. Also an increase in unemployment benefits, a new tax break for the poor, a standby community improvement course, something like the WPA, plus a big boost in federally guaranteed mortgage funds. President Ford calling inflation our present public enemy number 1. Unless it is whipped, said he, it will destroy our country, our homes, our liberty, our property, and finally our national pride. It will do this, said he, just as surely as any well-armed wartime enemy. And earlier in the day, a special appeal was made to the House alone. President Ford urging the House to reconsider its hasty act in voting a ban on U.S. military aid to Turkey, and then to work with the Senate to pass a new foreign aid bill that will best serve the interests of peace. If not, said the President, he will have no choice but to veto. The President also met today with Polish Communist leader Edward Gierek, the President noting that Poland, as a source of coal, has a role to play in seeking a resolution to the world energy problem. Gierek saying his U.S. visit is another reaffirmation of international detente. The White House again, an announcement. The President will hold another news conference at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon in the White House Rose Garden, weather permitting, a new setting, a new format. The President will permit follow-up questions from each reporter he recognizes if his first answer fails to suffice. Selection of a jury in the Watergate Cover-up trial continues, in the words of at least one lawyer, slowly. And so a decision today to delay President Ford's planned appearance before a House panel. The President's testimony regarding his pardon of President Nixon is now reset for a week from Thursday. The guerrillas holding those 7 hostages in Santo Domingo, they have agreed to release them in exchange for safe passage out of the country. The 1974 Nobel Peace Prize announced today in Oslo. Again, a double winner. Former Japanese Prime Minister Eisaku Sato and former Irish Foreign Minister Sean McBride. Sato's citation noting his fight for the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons and international reconciliation. McBride's noting his efforts for humanity, mainly as head of an organization called Amnesty International. Secretary of State Kissinger leaves at midnight on his 8th trip to the Middle East, first stop Cairo, where Egypt's Foreign Minister Fahmy today was predicting slow but steady progress in reducing Mideast tensions. Fahmy adding that a long-awaited Geneva peace conference with the Israelis is coming shortly. New York, death claims a great American, Paul G. Hoffman. Successful in business, former UN delegate, first administrator of the Marshall Plan after World War II, first president of the Ford Foundation, age 83. The nation's 20th largest bank, Franklin National of Long Island, was today declared financially insolvent, clearing the way for a takeover by a European American, a New York bank owned by 6 large European banks, the government stressing that Franklin depositors will be protected by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Julie Nixon Eisenhower is in Philadelphia, taping another series of TV appearances and saying she hopes her father will return to public life someday, perhaps as a roving ambassador. The birth of still another set of quintuplets, reported from Baltimore. Mrs. Karen Moorer, wife of a young bakery worker, giving birth to 4 girls and a boy. Mother and children said to be in remarkably good condition. The father, who expected twins, describing his condition as shattered. And now this message. I seem to be out of news, so for CBS News, this is Lowell Thomas saying so long until tomorrow.
Monday, October 28, 1974. Now stand by for Lowell Thomas.
It's 7 o'clock. From Rabat, Morocco, from your son. Good morning. Comes today's news. Good evening, everybody. This is Lowell Thomas for CBS News. That Arab summit meeting at Rabat, Morocco was all but paralyzed today over the question of who speaks for the West Bank of the Jordan, Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat or Jordan's King Hussein. Both claim sovereignty over the disputed territory. The controversy today finally leading to the formation of a special committee charged with solving the dilemma or else. Now, a decision. The Arab leaders ruling that Arafat's Palestine Liberation Organization will be given control of any Palestinian lands liberated from Israel. At the same time, though, they came up with a guarantee that Jordan will be granted some role in future Mideast peace talks. And now this message. Secretary of State Kissinger, a guest in New Delhi today, met twice with India's Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Somewhere along the way, the U.S. and India apparently deciding to let bygones be bygones, partly. At any rate, Madam Gandhi saying, and Dr. Kissinger agreeing, relations between the U.S. and India are again on the way up. U.S. Ambassador Daniel Moynihan also disclosed that President Ford has agreed in principle to visit India. When? We don't know. Veterans Day 1974, an occasion marked today by President Ford at the Tomb of the Unknown at Arlington National Cemetery. The President not only paying tribute to fallen heroes of past wars, but also stressing what he called our debt to Vietnam veterans, adding that he intends to pay up, at least in part, by placing 70,000 Vietnam veterans in federal jobs by next July 1. The President saying he intends to make certain as well that the men missing in action in Vietnam are not forgotten. To their families and friends, said he, I make this pledge. I will do everything possible to resolve the uncertainty of their status. The White House, President Ford today signed into law 22 different bills, among them a repeal of the controversial no-knock police search law and the rescinding of the mandatory auto seatbelt ignition interlock requirement. Convicted Watergate mastermind E. Howard Hunt today became the second witness to testify in the Watergate Cover-up case, saying he was told by G. Gordon Liddy that then Attorney General John Mitchell had okayed the bugging, and that about a month after he was caught, he began receiving mysterious cash payments running into the thousands. Hunt saying he then told an old friend, former White House aide Howard Colson, he would remain silent so as not to jeopardize the Nixon re-election campaign. Hunt also told of committing perjury before 3 grand juries, saying he finally decided to tell all after reading the transcripts of White House tapes, deciding the men he was protecting were not worthy of his continued loyalty. Across the country at Long Beach, California, the former president was undergoing new tests today. These at the request of the newest member of his medical team, Dr. Wiley Barker, who said they should determine whether Mr. Nixon needs surgery to alleviate the phlebitis in his left leg. And Vice President nominee Nelson Rockefeller today placed on the record all the loans he has made to individuals from 1957 through the present, including 2 loans totaling $84,000 to Robert Anderson, who later became Secretary of the Treasury under President Eisenhower. Rockefeller noting, however, that Anderson was a longtime friend and a private citizen at the time the loans were made, adding that Anderson paid them both back prior to assuming public office. And now this message. Minneapolis waging a war against muggers, purse snatchers, con men who prey on the elderly. And now for CBS News, this is Lowell Thomas saying so long until tomorrow.
Thursday, October 31st, 1974. Now, Lowell Thomas.
From Sioux City, Iowa. From Islamabad, Pakistan. From Manchurganj, India, comes today's news. Good evening, everybody. This is Lowell Thomas for CBS News. President Ford off and running today on a 3-day campaign tour. Final foray prior to election. First stop, Sioux City, Iowa, where he promised to protect American dairymen and cattlemen from government-subsidized foreign competition, adding that farmers are more likely the victims of inflation than the cause. Former President Nixon in critical condition, doctors at Long Beach Hospital saying he's still losing a little blood, adding that his vital signs are stable, his spirit and mental attitude excellent. They say he is alert, aware of everything going on around him, and cooperative. And now, this message. From Treasury Secretary Simon, a not-so-veiled warning to U.S. food processors and grocers, noting that retail food prices have increased by 6%, while farm prices were actually declining by 9%. With times as difficult as they are, said he, we cannot permit one segment of the economy to reap unjust enrichment at the expense of everyone else. From the U.S. Treasury Department, a new set of regulations aimed at keeping tabs on foreign investments in our companies, this apparently the result of a huge influx of Arab oil money, figures so obtained to serve as a benchmark for foreign investment, beyond which some sort of freeze may be called for. And now this message. The White House, the First Lady today resumed her official role. Mrs. Ford serving punch and cookies and a coin apiece to 6 children, taking part in the annual UNICEF Halloween Fund Drive. These including a witch, a ghost, and a miniature Dracula, the vanguard of millions of trick-or-treaters now at work right across the nation. And for CBS News, this is Lowell Thomas saying so long until tomorrow.
Happy Halloween, Lowell. It's 7:06. I am Bruce.